Hey guys! So we are starting day one, which is assembling your pattern, cutting your pieces, and interfacing. Today is pretty simple and straightforward. I'm just going to give you a few hints. I've already interfaced everything, except for I do have one that's a little loose, so I will show you how that works. Let's see. So assembling the pattern, obviously, just put the pattern together and then cut it out. What I suggest for you to do, though, when you do that, is you have these pieces like this, and you'll see where it says to cut the foam. Like this one is cut down to where you would cut the foam piece of it, and then I have three of these basically. You don't have to print the whole pattern 3 times, just this piece, the strap, and then this front piece right here. All require foam. So I print 2 of these guys, and then I have 2 that have the actual pattern piece. It's just put away right now, and I guess I should have left it out. And then I print 3 of these, so that this is for my foam, and then this one already has this part cut out for whenever you're putting the zipper part together. I just learned that's the easiest, other than trying to fold it or tape it back together. And then I totally, I love Shannon so much because she helped me out, blanked it, and I cut one of my pieces like this. So this is why I took the bottom off, so that I can't do that again. I cut one of my pieces with this out of it versus on it, because I didn't have more than just the one piece. So that's a helpful hint that I really enjoyed. And then for interfacing, so there are a few different ways people like to interface, okay? When I'm using woven, a lot of times I just cut the woven out, and then I cut the interface out, and then I iron them together. Knit, on the other hand, if you're using CL, I have found it easier to iron the interface on the piece first, then cut. You can do that for woven too. I don't know why I don't do that for woven. I think sometimes it's because my woven is not necessarily all the way ironed out, so it just gives me a chance to iron my woven out before I put the interfacing on it. So you'll see all of your pieces that you needed. So I usually divide mine up, but your tools you'll need. So the insides, on my small ones, unless someone asks me, like Jillian, do not put a zipper in the very front piece where the small zipper is. Let me get one that's nice. Because I just made her one actually. So on the smaller one, because this is your small size, I don't always put the zipper that's right here. So in my tutorial, they're done the same way. You have to put a pocket in the back. In this right here, you have to put a pocket back here. I know sometimes people don't like making their welt pockets, but you have to, for the simple fact that that is how you turn your back. So you have to have one back there. You do not have to have one up here. And this also has a slip pocket in the front and a mesh option in the back. You are not required to do any of the options other than the one pocket, because it's necessary to flip your bag. I'm sure a better bag maker could know a different way, but that's the only way I know how to do it. So again, you have to make at least one pocket. There's one like hidden inner pocket, but other than that, you don't have to add any of the options you have to add. I am gonna go over how to do the other 2 options, because I'm gonna add them to my bag, but they are not necessary, and if you don't want to do them, you don't have to do them. It depends what you're using it for. So back to your tools. So again, depending on how many pockets you're making, you need 1 or 2 9-inch zippers. So I want to say this is 9. I am really bad. I just have like a whole, I just have a whole thing of zippers. So I just make them work. But yes, this one is 9. Then you need, I'm using zipper tape, so it looks like this. And then you just cut it down to the size you need. And then I have zipper pulls to put on it. You can also just use a regular. Is this one of my long ones? No. Like I said, I have like a whole drawer down here of freaking zippers. Any size zipper and you can cut it down, but this is like one of the pre-made ones already. There's not one that's better than the other. It's really not. Zipper tape for me, I like to put different pulls. I like to have rainbow stuff. And it's usually cheaper to buy a whole 3 yards of zipper tape versus a lot of zippers. But either one works. And again, like I was discussing, this is a 5. And usually for this one, right here, is a 3. So you can see that one is a little bigger than the other. I actually prefer the 3 on the small bag, but I want to use these really cool pulls, so I'm going to use a 5. But the pattern does call for one like this. Again, it's honestly personal preference. There's not one. Both of them will work. Both of them get put on the same way. Your sewing allowance is 1/4, so either one will work. This one I actually take it a little more than 1/4, only because I like mine a little closer to my zipper tape, or my zipper, my actual zipper. So then there's your zippers. Then you'll need a parachute clip, 2 D-rings. You could technically just use one, but if you wanted to be able to swap the sides of how you your bag goes on you, you would need 2. And then, oh, that's my other. Again, if you're using zipper tape, you need 2 pulls. And then your swivel clip, okay? And then if you're making the mesh, you just need a piece of mesh. It's not a very big piece. I got mine at Hobby Lobby for 40% off. I think it cost me like $1.50. So it's pretty inexpensive. And then we're drawing over all your things, but this is your binding. Again, you can actually use regular binding that you get at the store, or you can make your own, like I'm going to make my own with this piece right here. So those are the tools that you need. Oh, sorry, I lied. And you need webbing. This actually is more than enough. The 2 yards one that you can get at Joann's. I know you can buy some online, but some of my supplies I bought to make more bags that had some of this in it hadn't came in yet. So I went ahead and just bought one of these from Joann's. You only need 2/3 of a yard. So you can also get it cut down for you. They have different ones. So now on to your pattern pieces. So for your little guys, you'll need 3. These are for your zipper tapes. These are for your zippers. Oh, I can hear my dog. She's being ridiculous. These are for your zippers. So they're your zipper tabs. Oh. So this is what I do a lot of times. Your zipper tabs, everything that I'm showing you after your zipper tabs need to be interfaced unless I tell you otherwise, okay? So these are my connectors at the bottom, and then this is my strap on the top. I leave it like this until I'm getting ready to use them, only because I notoriously lose them when they're this small. They fall, I don't know what happens to them. They get lost. So if I leave them like this, I am less likely to lose them. So that's just a little hint for you. Let's see. We'll go over the outsides first. I did have all this divided up, and then I started picking it up. So here is your strap. So you'll need 2 of these. Here's your front, here's your back. They can be the same, they can be different. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that when you are cutting, it does go across your body like this. So you want your pattern to go down. Obviously, if you don't care, then it doesn't particularly matter. Or if you have something like the Galaxy where it's not a directional print, it doesn't matter. But just make sure that when you cut it out, that you make sure that your print is going down. So it wants to go towards this big fat bottom part. Then you have, so again, we're going to talk about that actually. So this is the sides of yours, and you're actually supposed to cut it on the fold. Mine is not cut on the fold only because I'm going to sew mine together like this, so that my print is going the same direction both ways. So again, if you have a directional print, just don't cut it on the fold. Just cut two. Give yourself a little bit of a sewing allowance. You don't need a lot, like maybe 1/4 of an inch. And then sew them together, and then it becomes one continuous piece, right? But now my pattern piece is not going to be upside down when you see my princesses and stuff. So, well, I guess not princesses, they're the evil queens. And then you will interface, and you will need a piece of foam. Like so, if your print isn't directional, it would look like this, like the foam does, one continuous piece. Like the one that I did here, because the print was non-directional, it's just one continuous piece. So it really just depends on your print, but I'm just giving you, and if you don't want your pattern to be upside down up one side, you need to not cut it on the fold, just cut two and then sew them together. Okay? Same thing with this. Sorry, I should have went over that. You need a piece of foam. And then you also make sure that you want to cut it to the size of the foam piece on here. If you do not do that, you will struggle so hard to get this into this later, okay? And then now you got your side. Again, interfaced foam. Your other side piece, interface and foam. And then your back piece, interface and foam. That is everything that you need foam for. The pattern itself will tell you you don't need to interface. Well, I take that back. I personally, on my front pieces, interface and then foam, and then I also interface my other piece. But I think the pattern itself tells you you don't have to do that. You can just put the foam down. I just like the more stiffer feeling the interface gives the bag, so it looks a little more crisp than just putting straight foam. But it's personal preference. If you are using cotton lycra, which you absolutely can, I've used it on a lot of bags. I just used it on a Denver, if y'all saw it in the main group. You have to interface everything. Everything that is CL, you will interface. I don't care if you're using it for a zipper tab, you will need to interface because it will stretch and you'll be super upset. And so if it is CL or anything non-woven, I've never used anything like, I don't know, French terry or anything like that, but if you were, you need to interface, okay? So the pattern itself, I think, tells you you don't have to interface where you put the foam, but I do. I basically interface everything because I like the look and the weight it gives the bag and stuff like that, but it's not actually necessary. You can also just follow with the pattern. So I'm just going over how I personally do things. And so again, you will have your two pieces. When you cut these two, you need to make sure that they are opposite, so mirrored imaged of your other two, so that when you sew them together, they will go like this, okay? So just make sure when you're cutting out that you cut mirror. I'm reminding y'all of all these things, not because I think you can't do them, it's because these are things I have messed up before and then had to cut a new piece. And again, just make sure that they are opposite. These are the only ones that really matter. Once you are cutting your other lining pieces like this, they're cut on the fold, so they're exactly the same either way you do it, okay? And then you should have 3 of these. So pretty easy, right? You just have 3 linings. Then you'll also have your outside lining, like this one, not cut on, this one is cut on the fold. So it's one continuous piece. Because it's non-directional. Then you will need your pocket pieces. So if you're making 2 pockets, you'll cut 2 of these. Again, it actually gives you a size you need. I can't remember exactly what size it is. For the different sizes, size bags or whatever, just cut your piece to what the pattern says to cut it to. I want to say mine is 7 by 14. But again, I'm using this, and I didn't want them to be upside down, which you will end up folding this down, so it would be upside down. I cut 2, and then I will just sew them together to make sure that my prints are going the same direction, okay? Because if not, like, obviously, if they was the right way, it wouldn't be like this, where they're, so, but I'll just sew them on the top, and then now I have one continuous piece, and I will use it just like I would use a piece I cut out. Then, if you, but again, yeah, and then this is your slip pocket, so you, but this one, and sorry, for your pockets, you don't need to interface that. You can, by all means, you can, but you don't have to. And then for your slip pocket, you have one interfaced and then one not, and then they just go together like this. Let's see, anything else I need to cover with y'all? Some tricks for interfacing. I personally, my husband, who is amazing, got me, I'll come up here and show you all this thing. This cool, like steamer, huge iron-like thing to press my stuff. So it's super fast. But if you're using an iron, be sure, check your settings on your iron. Be sure your iron is super hot and that it can steam. It'll help you a lot with the interfacing, getting it on there or whatever. If you have something like that, I don't need to steam. It gets so hot that it just does it. Or I think Shannon and probably some other bag makers uses a heat press like you would to make shirts, and they use that and it works great. I just was so tired of using my iron and interfacing a little at a time, so that interfaces like my whole piece at one time. For foam, I know a lot of people like sew-in foam, but some places don't have it, as I heard, I guess. Like Joann's stopped carrying the sew-in. Like this right here that I have is actually one-sided. And I just don't actually I just don't actually fuse it until after I'm all done, like when I'm pressing the bag, and then if it gets fused, it gets fused. But the problem with fused foam is sometimes when you're flipping the bags, it gets wrinkly, and it's really hard for you to fix once it's wrinkled in the bag. So I don't recommend actually fusing it together, but you can use it and just not fuse it. And then, so pretty much went over all the things that you need. Oops, I guess you don't want to see my hand, huh? Need for today. So your real steps. Oh, I guess I should say, you're going to, I'm not gonna actually do it, but all your foam pieces, you need to just take it over and baste it. So a lot of times for a lot of foam bags, I use zigzags, but for these and for the pieces that are like this, that are all the way to the edge, so your long piece and your back piece, if you zigzag, that is fine. I find if you zigzag, and basically all you're gonna do is put it together and then baste it like right around the edge. With a zigzag, will push your foam down, so when you're sewing stuff later, it's really easy. But your other pieces, your ones like this, as you see, because you cut your foam down to it's smaller, and that's just so you'll see when we're putting the zippers in it and stuff in, you don't really want the foam in your allowance whenever you're sewing zippers. So you'll usually and eventually just sew like really close to the foam, and then when you top stitch it, you're top stitching the foam down. But I will just use a really long straight stitch on these, really close to the edge. If you zigzag, sometimes your zigzags will still be in your places you can see, because this isn't going all the way to the edge, and so you're gonna like barely either catch it or barely be right along it. So zigzagging will not go into your seam allowance some of the time. So these ones I basically just straight stitch. I think that is all for day one. Day one, while the easiest day, like Also typically takes people the longest. It does take me the longest. I usually will break it up. I'll cut up one day, I'll interface the next day, and then a lot of times I'll cut like 3 or 4 bags at one time and then interface like back to back to back to back. So take your time today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I feel like I might have went a little fast or if I missed something, but day 1 to me is a pretty easy, simple day. Those are just some of my tips. Again, print 3 of your 1 so you can use it, and then yeah. So happy sewing, guys.